So now let's move on to chapter 2, Introduction to House Hacking. So if you don't already understand what house hacking is, hopefully in this chapter you will gain a clear understanding of it. So first, let's go over some common misconceptions of house hacking. The first myth is tenant management is overwhelming. Really, with proper systems and guidelines, it can be fairly easy to manage tenants. It's all about putting in place the proper systems, finding good tenants, being a good landlord, and this isn't going to be a problem at all. The second myth is legal issues are too complex. Really, they're pretty straightforward. You just have to understand the neighborhood you're investing in, the pros and the cons, and just adhere to the local laws and you won't have a problem. The next myth is house hacking is financially riskier than traditional renting. I definitely disagree because house hacking often comes with lower financial barriers and potential for significant cost savings on living expenses. So if you're buying a house as a house hack, you're able to live in it as your primary residence and you're putting down much less than you would for a traditional investment property. A traditional investment property, you have to put down like 20%. For a house hacking situation, you only have to put 3 to 5% down. And so it's a lot less money that you have to bring up front and you're there living at the house and therefore you can keep a close eye on your tenants. The next myth is constant tenant turnover. And this kind of goes back to the first myth. If you are a good landlord, if you're finding good tenants, this isn't going to be an issue. You'll have people who want to stay long term. And then the next myth is house hacking limits privacy. This is kind of true. I mean, you are going to be living next to someone in most house hacking scenarios. And so your privacy is diminished, but you can put in place some barriers, like some rules, house rules, regulations. You can create separate yards. You can do everything you can to insulate the walls so noise isn't traveling. So there are things that you can do to make this less of a risk. And then the last myth is difficult to find suitable properties. I see so many house hacking properties all the time. They're everywhere and really there are plenty of options for you. And so this is definitely a myth. What is house hacking? So house hacking is a real estate investment strategy where an individual purchases a property, occupies part of it as their primary residence, and then rents out the remaining space to generate income. So this approach allows the property owner to reduce or completely cover their own living expenses through rental income earned. So you move into a house, maybe your mortgage is $2,000 a month, and you rent the upstairs for $1,500 a month. Now you only have to pay $500 a month towards your mortgage, which is going to save you $1,500 a month. And so that's an example of house hacking. It can help people who can't really qualify for a mortgage on their own. Usually you qualify for more if you are going to house hack. And it also can just help people offset their mortgage payment if you need to be able to save more money. So there's different variations of house hacking, and we're going to go over all the variations in this course. So house hacking can be achieved through various means, such as renting out separate units in a multifamily home, leasing individual rooms in a single family residence, or utilizing accessory dwelling units or like mother-in-law apartments. This strategy not only provides financial leverage by offsetting the mortgage payment, but also serves as a stepping stone towards building long-term wealth in the real estate market. The first option, single family homes with maybe a separate apartment in the home, multi-family homes, small multi, like 2 to 3 units. Also, you have single family homes with multiple rooms where you can rent out the different rooms. So pros of house hacking. So the first pro is income generation. House hacking allows you to generate rental income. So you're making money from your tenant, even though that's probably going towards your expenses and towards the mortgage, you're still making that money. Low down payment. So like I mentioned, with house hacking, because it's your primary residence, you are able to put down 3 to 5% versus 20% if you were buying it as an investment property. Lower interest rates. Again, because it's your primary residence, you are going to have better loan options, meaning you are going to get a lower interest rate. And then another pro is equity building. So as you own that home, you're going to have natural appreciation. So most areas you have about 3% year over year appreciation if you zoom out and look at a 10-year period. So if you buy a house for $100,000 in 10 years, that house should be worth $30,000 more than what you bought it for. So you have that natural appreciation, year over year growth. And then you also have your debt pay down. So your tenants, if they're paying off half of your mortgage, they're paying down your equity for you. So you're gaining equity as your tenants are paying down your mortgage. And then you have tax benefits. So real estate investors can benefit from tax deductions, related mortgage interest, property taxes, and property management expenses. So even if you're just owning a home to live in, there's a bunch of tax advantages, but they're like multiplied when you're using it as a rental property as well. And so definitely consult a tax advisor about all the tax benefits. Some more pros, you have diverse property types. There are a variety of property types suitable for house hacking. Like we've talked about, you can buy a small multifamily, a duplex, a triplex, or a fourplex, or single family homes that have an ADU, or single family homes that have a lot of bedrooms. There are different flexible strategies. Again, like we've talked about, you can rent it out per room. You can have dual living areas. If you buy a duplex, you can rent out one of the duplexes and then maybe rent out per room in the other duplex that you're living in. Another pro is community support. As long as you're being a good neighbor, you're taking care of the parking and finding good tenants, then you're going to have community support. And there's also a lot of people in the house hacking world that you can now connect with. And then exit strategies. House hacking offers multiple exit strategies, such as selling, renting, or refinancing your house. So you're not just stuck with one exit strategy. Like if you're fix and flipping, you have to be able to sell it, right? If you're house hacking, you have all these different exit strategies. So obviously cons, I have to point out some cons. I will admit that I'm fairly biased. I do believe that house hacking is probably the easiest way and the safest way for someone to get into real estate investing. But there obviously are cons as to anything in life, and I'll highlight those for you. So the first con is regulatory changes. So with house hacking, you're renting out a single family home most of the time, and you're renting out additional dwelling unit. And some neighborhoods have certain zoning laws where maybe you can't rent out that unit to someone else if you're living in it. So it's really important just to know the local laws and understand what your exit strategy needs to look like to meet those regulations. The next con is the initial investment. So even though you only have to put down 3 to 5%, that can still be a good chunk of money and might still be really hard for someone to come up with. So just the upfront costs involved could be considered a con. The next con is property maintenance. So with any home or any investment, you're going to have ongoing maintenance. You're going to have to get the rain gutters cleaned every year. You're going to have to change the air filters every 3 months. And so this is important to plan for this as you're thinking about entering into real estate. The next con is tenant selection. This can be a hassle to have to list the property and find good tenants, but you also can outsource this if you're really uncomfortable with it. You can hire a property manager, but I would suggest if you're going to be house hacking to do it yourself, because you're going to be more hands-on and you're there anyways, and you'll learn a lot just in that aspect of house hacking. Next con, personal privacy. I mean, it's reality. If you're renting out rooms, you're not going to have as much privacy, right? Even if you're living in the basement and you have a family living above you, you're going to see them. You're going to be around them. You're probably going to hear them. And so it's important to keep that in mind. But at the same time, it's temporary. When you're house hacking, you're only living there for a year or two. And so, yeah, you're kind of sacrificing for a little bit, but it's going to really pay off long term. And then the last con, again, with anything in real estate, you have market fluctuations. So the economy is going to have downturns or shifts in the real estate market. And so that's why it's really important to look at any real estate investment purchase as a long-term strategy. And as long as it's working as a long-term strategy, you can really mitigate this risk of market fluctuations. And so keep that in mind.